From a CAC perspective, if somebody buys our hardware on machines, we're payback period is day one, because hardware is such an incredible tool for verticalized SaaS businesses if you can actually sell it. And a lot of our customers, they want us to be successful, because if we're successful, we get to do more for them. We have to toe the line between innovation and focusing on core. And so you need to have that constant push and pull. Average over-the-counter sale, including products and everything, $28, $30. Average online order is $75. So you can nearly triple your average ticket as an operator. Wow. We wanted to focus on innovation. So we built the first ever integration with Uber and DoorDash to bring them into our product. An operator can get into pick up delivery. We found that that kind of innovation ended up being so core to the need of our operator. So we decided to not focus on core, build something innovative to help 90% of the industry get into pick up and delivery, which is such a huge value add service. Why it's so important to be present with our customers and be invested deep in the industry. It's why we are not trying to go into car washes and going to all these, because you got to be committed to know what to do. And that's been powerful for us.
Alex Jekowsky, founder and CEO of Sense. Welcome to Change Order.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
I guess first off, I want to say thank you for joining. I think the first time we ever spoke, I think I passed on your seed round. So I'm curious what ended up making it so you could come in here.
A lot of other people that saw the vision of what we wanted to do. I always, we joke about, we like to spend the most amount of our time with the people that passed on us, so we can learn about, how can we pitch things better and be better as a company, but also we like to say, hey, things are going well, which is always nice.
Just rubbing it in a little bit.
We're all learning. We're all, I'm sure maybe let's just hope that next year I can do the same thing.
It's so true. I actually think it's good for people to know, but I did invite you into our partner meeting not too long ago because we do something here at Primary called a miss or pass analysis, which is when companies go on to do pretty well. We actually invite in the founders or the investors to tell us, what was it that we missed? And I feel like there was a lot of really good learnings from what you ended up building. So I appreciate you spending the time.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's everything for a startup is a moment in time. So it's today things are going great. I hope they maintain to be the case. And so I want to continue to come into the miss analysis and not hey, at one point you were right. So.
Well, I do want to start kind of at the beginning. I was reading some stuff about you, and I found out that both of us used our bar mitzvah money in very similar ways. You started a baseball camp, though. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I guess my first in very much air quotes business, but probably consistent with my thesis of all entrepreneurship, which is largely not trying to find an idea, but doing something you like and trying to make some money out of it. But the first business was teaching kids baseball out of my, backyard, where I had a pitching machine and a batting cage. I wanted to be a baseball player. That was my dream. The scrawny Jewish kid in Tiburon, California was what a hero's journey that would have been. But that was really my life. And baseball was pretty much my baseball music, but mainly baseball was like my complete identity growing up. And I ended up running summer camps and doing private coaching in my backyard, and then becoming the coach of teams for 13, 14-year-olds when I was in high school, particularly when I got injured and tore the ligament, or not exactly sure what happened, but my SC joint right near my collarbone, and didn't play my senior year of high school baseball and decided to go all in on coaching. And it was the best experience I ever had playing sports. So it made some money so I could not have to ask my parents for everything. And probably my first journey into, working with parents in different ways, of speaking to different languages to the players, to the individuals, running a team, and dealing with a lot of different ICPs, if you will, at that point until I left for college. And then it was on to the next business.
It's kind of funny. I feel like a lot of the people that I know who are founders, they were either starting businesses and selling things when they were younger, they were taking computers apart, or they were making bombs. I don't know if you ever heard that story, but the PayPal mafia, all the original founders used to make bombs when they were kids.
It's I didn't have the brain to. I love to tinker and build, but I think it's my dad was a musician, orchestral conductor, and our entire family has taken a very creative view to a lot of things, even if it's numbers and but even in the social environment, a lot of for at least growing up, everything was a creative endeavor. And so the world of startups is less tinkering and building and more of the creative expression of being able to, for player development and kids be able to take a player that can't throw a strike and develop them into a good starting pitcher that can get you through a couple innings. And the same thing in any company. And sometimes I think it's like obnoxious when you try to create anything as an analogy to being a founder or an entrepreneur. But at the same time, I think that it's never been I've never had ambition to start companies or to do things like that. It's just this is my version of my own kind of creative expression where I get to, I don't play as much music as I used to. I don't get to do, I don't do as much of the stuff that I know I loved doing growing up. And that's why Sense or any company I've been a part of has felt like that kind of cohesive, creative experience.
It's kind of funny though, because I do think there are multiple personas of founders. There's not just a one size fits all. And the founders that I've found, at least that are like you, who started a bunch of businesses when they were younger instead of taking apart computers, oftentimes they do enjoy the management side a little bit more. And I think the fact that you wanted to be a coach, and ironically, I actually wanted to be a basketball coach when I was younger, I think it's probably reflective of the way you approach your organization building now.
Yeah, I think when you do it at a young age and you deal with people very similar age to you, right? And then you also deal with the parents who are much older than you. It means that when you start a company and you're younger, you're used to dealing with the parents, you're used to dealing with the kids, you're used to dealing with people who are very similar in age, and you have to have that dynamic where you're a coach and a leader, but these kids can be 2 or 3 years younger than you. And so there has to be, how do you establish that respect from a parent who's yelling at you that their son or daughter is not getting enough playing time, but then you can kind of calm them down and make them a cohesive part of the stands, and then also get the players to respect and be motivated to learn, grow, and develop, and see you as somebody that they want to either emulate or learn from, but then not just say, screw you, you're 2 years my senior, or I'm old. So I think that kind of does help when you have that early experience. And I think even going to my dad's performances at the orchestra when I'm 9 years old, also dealing with, and talking with people on the symphonies board and at the galas and this and that, it helps train you to deal with different kinds of people in different scenarios. And when you get a chance, and you're extremely fortunate to do that at a young age, it's only more valuable, as you think about growing your own career in the future.
Was there something when you were younger that happened that inspired you to start companies?
I mean, I remember when I actually don't know how old I was, might have been 7 or 8, when I would host a lemonade stand with one of my friends, like very locally in town. And I loved fishing with my dad. And we would go fishing at this trout farm in like North Marin County, I forget where it was, near Bodega Bay or something. And we would catch trout, and I would bring them to the lemonade stand, and we'd set up the lemonade stand after, like, right before and after, or the middle way through soccer practice of the local soccer team. So after practice, we'd want to sell them lemonade, a brownie, and fish, because we caught that. And I think we sold fish. I think it was maybe out of pity. I don't know if any of it was eaten by anybody, but I think I've never had, like I said, I've never had ambition to start companies or be an entrepreneur or founder. It's always like, what do I like doing and what is interesting? And I think it was Yuri Levin from Waze who said, fall in love with the problem, the solution will come, or something along the lines, paraphrasing, where I loved fishing, and I liked the lemonade stand, and I liked selling people things and having that kind of engagement. I liked doing that with my friend. And that was then a business, because it seemed like, hey, cool if we could make money doing this. And I loved playing baseball, and I love the exercise of coaching and teaching, even when I don't even know what I'm talking about, and you kind of figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
It's much more the exercise of doing than the concept of what it actually is when you take a step back and say, oh, that's a lemonade stand business. That's a baseball coaching business. This is a vertical SaaS company in laundry, right? It's much more about the exercise and having the opportunity to have fun in what you're doing and enjoy it than the actual being a CEO or a businessman.
Lemonade and trout. It reminds me of that like Big Daddy line of like lamb and tuna fish.
That's right. Everything. There was a period where, I wanted to be a baseball player. My brother was a filmmaker. My sister got her degree in counterterrorism. My mom was, nonprofit boards, and my dad was a musician. And you couldn't have found us doing different things. And every single thing we did as a family was the weirdest version of it. My baseball player, but also coaching, and then my little lemonade stands and all this stuff. And now we're all, at least all my siblings, a lot in tech and venture and has gone. But I think all those experiences are kind of our own passions and interests that then lead you into that next thing.
Totally believe that. You said falling in love with the problem. I heard a story that you were touring actually my alma mater, the University of Miami, and identified a problem. What was the problem, and how did you come up with the idea for what I would say is probably your first like very real company?
Yes, I think that is. I can't really call those other ones companies as much as things that I like to do. But yeah, it was touring University of Miami. I had this blind thought that I could be a walk-on baseball player there for some reason.
So did I.
Exactly. Some more self-awareness would have been helpful there, but I'm glad I didn't, because the first business stemmed from my dad and I visiting that school and seeing one of these pin boards in all the different places that we went. And it had, I don't know, 1,000 pieces of paper on it, all, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the University of Miami. This is a great college. How is that the way that information is being communicated? Like, if I went here and I wanted to know stuff, this pin board is doing nothing for me. Why isn't this like a TV where I could like touch it and do cool things? But the idea is like, it would be cool if we digitized that. Like, that would be a fun idea and a fun thing to do. And interesting, because I just felt like going into college, maybe that could be a cool thing that I could sink my teeth into. Because academically, I just didn't have it as much to just sit in class and do it. I wish I could. It would have made my life much smoother and simpler. My parents probably happier. But I always loved having something else, whether it was music or baseball. It was something else that was my real passion, and school was just a vehicle to continue going through my life. And so that was just a thing that stuck out to me. And it was started at University of Miami. Then every college I toured, I saw these same pin boards, and I'm like, this is a cool idea. Let's do something here. And that was the start of, I guess, my first real business, where I learned a lot. First thing was branding. And I decided to name it Scholars Ad. And the idea was, for scholars on campus, this is your advertising network, right? These pin boards, how you advertise yourself. And, we raised, I don't know, I think it was $16,900 from one angel investor who told me that they believed in me and this is what we're going to do. I was like, great. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get a logo, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? And I'm 17 going in at Chapman University, or maybe I was 18 at the time. And so Scholars Ad had a capital S and a capital A, right? So SA was like the logo. One thing, and so Scholars, capital S and capital A, Scholars Ad. That was when you type it in a URL, and I only found this out after the business cards, because you think you need business cards and the email signatures and all that. Then you find out when you write it all together, it actually just says Scholars Sad. And then once you see Scholars Sad, you can't unsee it. But this is after I think I've come up with the best name ever. Of course, no product or anything, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going with it for now, and hopefully nobody knows the difference. But that was the digitizing those pin boards was kind of the original idea. We raised this tiny bit of money.
How much did you spend on the logo?
Probably too much. But actually, funny enough, the same designers I found, I don't even know how I found them. Shout out to Christian and Allegra. They ended up being the same designers I used across the next iteration of that business, became Ulyngo, and they helped to do all of that. And we've stayed in touch for a long time. And they were the first people to actually ever believe, outside of either investors or my friends, that, hey, this is actually a cool idea and a unique business, and we want to help you. And that, to me, $2,000, $3,000, whatever it was a fortune, because that made up a large percentage of any of the money that we raised.
Who wrote the code, like the lines of code for that first business?
That I mean, it was a friend of a friend that I met in high school, who ended up a guy named Robbie, who I met through a friend in San Francisco, who was really helped build the initial infrastructure in this contract that we had for seemingly in perpetuity of charging me. I think that's how I found the price. So what do you go out to an investor and you say, it costs $16,900 to do this, so I need $16,900. And we rode that contract for a long, long time. And he, helped me start to get into the Silicon Valley world, in Y Combinator and going to these startup events, because I don't know any of this stuff. And I'm from California. It doesn't mean you're in Silicon Valley. And then he introduced me to other people, and it was very solo founder, right? It was very hodgepodge of different people, where I become dependent on these engineers who I want them to be my partner, but it's different, especially when you're young. It's your first company, and they have other jobs. You're just a contract, and
your sister's not married yet to your future
My
co-founder.
sister hadn't been married. If she had only married Gilly at the time, it would have made my life infinitely easier. But I'm glad Gilly's getting the second company, not the first one. So I mean, it was every person I've met that's helped any business to get to where it is, it's such a random series of dominoes that have to fall. And even the engineer after Ulyngo, my first business, Scholars Ad, transitioned into Ulyngo, which the goal was, starting with these pin boards, was actually creating that digital marketplace, a Craigslist for college, student ID based, all of that, which then evolved into really Ulyngo, which was the idea of like a social language on campus. It was kind of a crappy name also, but something different.
You got better at branding over time.
We got slightly better at branding over time. And the concept of Ulyngo was really like the marketplace for student life commerce. So it was everything but tuition we wanted to be. Meal plans, peer-to-peer exchanges, selling a couch, textbook, chair, or whatever, as well as membership dues to student organizations, which became a big part of our business. And basically, event tickets, parking permits, whatever we could do that wasn't the real heavy finance of tuition. That was the goal in this white labeled marketplace. If I knew what I knew now, it could have been a cool embedded vertical SaaS fintech company, and I could use all the jargon and play up the words. At the time, it was just, let's white label this marketplace we had built so college students could buy and sell to each other and work directly with the college campuses. Because we had raised maybe $250,000 and getting students to do anything. Right?
Hard.
Renting out the bars with the logo and the promo stuff, trying to be like what Yik Yak was doing and all these kind of social media or other apps that students were downloading, getting that real estate, getting them to do anything consistently, building a mobile app and a website. And we knew that there was a huge demand for these pinboard concepts or a marketplace. You see Facebook groups, you see them doing it everywhere.
Saturn's doing it now across high schools.
Like, we knew that there was a need. But I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't know, and we didn't have the money or the resources or anything to build a brand from that perspective. And I had the ambassadors on campus and we had blow up basketball hoops in the middle of Chapman University to get people to come over and learn about the marketplace and create a post and all this stuff. We realized that I didn't know enough about that. But if we knew there was a need, why weren't the college campuses solving that need? So the pivot went from being Ulyngo, download our app, to nobody needs to know who Ulyngo is. Let's white label this for college campuses. And now you go to marketplace.vanderbilt.edu or marketplace.chapman.edu. You log in with your student ID, and now you have this very student-centric commercial environment. And that's how the business pivoted towards the end. And at that pivot was when I moved from Orange County and I left Chapman University after my sophomore year, and they were extremely supportive and helpful to me during that time, as well as, your parents got to be helpful and supportive to you at that time. I moved back up to San Francisco and got a little co-working space with the first engineer I ever hired in-house. And that's happened to be where my future CTO and now VP of engineering at Sense was building his own engineering consulting firm in the same co-working space. And one day we happened to meet each other, and
randomness.
It's all random. It's like the only way I can describe it. How even just, Scholars Ad started, to meet the people that I met there, to meet the next person, the next person, the next person. So, that's the beauty. Nothing's a straight line. And if it were a straight line, it would not go well.
Do you think that company and the fact that you started out wanting to be a consumer business and then pivoted to selling to schools to then pull the users onto the platform impacted your point of view in terms of wanting to start a B2B company versus a consumer company after?
I'm definitely afraid of consumer from that perspective, for sure, because it's a consumer base I can't talk to, so I don't know them as well. And so how can we build product and design it in a way when that's just not my world as much. And I loved being able to I think what I noticed in that pivot was even less about B2B, B2C, was my ability to get deep and understand. I could go to the National Association of Student Affairs Professionals conference. I could go to EDUCAUSE. I could visit campuses, sit down with the bursar's office, sit down with the CIOs, sit down with the residential life, and understand what they need and how we can solve that problem. And that allowed me to get deep and know more about those dynamics than I hope a lot of people, for their own sake, not because I think it's impressive. Before even wanting to build Sense, it was about getting really deep in the laundry industry because I heard laundromats were amazing investments. And then I got to really know the industry and the business. And now I hope to God Gilly and I know more about laundromats than any other person, because good Lord, but that's the passion. It's the same with baseball. It's like getting deep into understanding, the angle of the arm when it's coming in to stay tight and hit the inside of the ball. Like the getting it deep into something is where I get to at least feel like the passion can really come out, because I can't do surface level passion. I can't fake it of just this general excitement about something. I have to get into it to understand it, to know it, to feel like an expert, to do anything in it.
It's funny you say that, because I feel like I also was not a great student in high school and was always obsessed with business. And I feel like the fact that I could not fake wanting to learn about everything we were learning about in school is probably what caused a bunch of that. Because I think about you now, and when you and I have chatted about vertical SaaS companies and SMB tech, the level of depth that you can get into is like super impressive. But it just shows that you do have a lot of intellectual horsepower. You just didn't apply it earlier in your life to school.
For better or worse, whatever I got in here, which is less than most, the only way it's coming out is if I love what it is. Like, I loved history, anthropology. I'm not a great writer, but I do enjoy it. And those are the classes I excelled in. Unfortunately, not a lot of those classes would contribute credits towards my major. Those classes were not what I wanted to pursue in my life. It's just what was the most interesting. And so I don't have the intellectual capabilities or bandwidth to be able to devote myself into something I don't love or enjoy or believe in. But even if I believe in it, if I don't love doing it or enjoy doing it, I don't think there's any dollar amount or any experience worthwhile not loving it. And it's the same with the people that we work with. I would not be doing what I'm doing if I didn't love every single person we had in the company, if I didn't love them and so enjoy sparring with the people on our board and the investor base that we have. I want to feel like going to a board meeting is like catching up with friends, is, within the realm of what's possible. But I want to have those kind of conversations that are interesting and exciting, because it's the same thing you'd ask of an employee, and you want to create for an employee to be excited and to show up for work every day. We talk internally at our culture. I try to have an extremely selfish culture, because everybody should want to do what they want to do at the office should feel and have the things that they like. If it's just one person saying, do all this stuff, and we don't know what they like we want them to be a little selfish to tell us what makes them happy. It's not about, and I do the same thing. Like, I don't want to go to an office or have an environment that, doesn't have, the coffee I like and the hint waters that, I want to.
It's the little things.
It's the little things, but, a selfish culture can be selfless if you're pouring your own passion and love into business. Maybe it's a stretch, but the idea is that I want people in the company doing what they're doing because they love doing it, not because we tell them to love it. And that's when you can be looking out for yourself while creating a great environment. And so that's the same with building companies. I wouldn't expect anybody to work in a business that I wasn't in love with and so excited. Not that there aren't dark moments and difficulties, but
people can feel that too. I mean, when you're a founder and you're leading an organization and people are giving the majority of their day and their lives to that organization, they want to follow someone that they can feel the belief in. And if you don't have it, you're likely going to have a pretty miserable culture and environment with a lot of turnover, I would imagine.
100%. And what we also want to make sure is that, we're not the bottleneck in that culture and that sentiment. I mean, I can shout out, example would be Sivan on our team and director of product operations. Like, she's the greatest conduit of culture in our business, is another, version of the kind of passion that I hope I have in the business. And I think there are so many people in our company that, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I don't think it's like, man, without Alex, there's no passion or feeling of this business. Without Gilly, we don't have passion in our product. It's, Chase Gilbert at Built helped really me understand the importance of guiding principles in a company that is the DNA and the framework of a great team member and a great culture. And passion needs to be foundational in the business. Culture needs to be foundational from the earliest of teams. And I think if you have a culture that can't scale, it's because at the foundation, it might not have really been there. It might have been just happenstance, and fun startup building can cover up a lot of ugliness because you're all in that scrappy kind of method where it's like not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be fun. And then as you scale, you find it's challenging. But a good culture since day one is scalable with the right framework. But everybody in the company has to be, customer obsessed, understand the responsibility that we have, be excited about the outcome, be constantly curious, have diversity in our team culture and thought, like all the elements of our guiding principles. That's what makes it so we don't have to beg people to be passionate when they're here.
So I want to ask two more questions on your time with Ulyngo and your first company. You were a solo founder in your first business. If you were to meet someone starting a company in college today that's also a solo founder, what advice would you give them?
Don't. Be number one, because it's the benefit of it is you realize how much it sucks. And I think sometimes it's good to go through pain. There was this great talk the NVIDIA CEO gave at Stanford Business School, which is
Jensen.
Exactly. I wish you immense amount of suffering and pain kind of was the concept, because that builds resiliency. So I don't think that everybody should try to just create the best experiences for themselves, because it's through that pain and suffering and depression and all that does build a lot of character. I think, especially when, the second time around. Yeah. However, I started off as a solo founder. It started the idea, all of that. But after maybe 4 years, when I met Ethan, who became our CTO, I asked him to be a co-founder in the business, because a co-founder isn't who has the idea. It's about whose DNA is it really in the beginning of the business, and who made this business possible to exist, right? It doesn't matter who was there on day one. It matters who was there. And so Ethan became a co-founder of business 4 years or so after I started it, but he's just as much of a founder in that business as me. And so I think some people can put roadblocks in front of themselves that I need a good partner before I can start. That's not true. You can bring on a partner at any single time, and you can call them whatever you want at any point. There's no rule on at least I don't think there's a rule on who a co-founder is.
Shouldn't be.
What's on a freaking board deck and what do you call each other? And I hear a lot of people saying, can anybody help me find a co-founder? It's like, you want to find a co-founder? Start building it and you'll find them. Mm-hmm. Because it's a domino effect. If you're just out there and you're trying and you're failing and you're suffering, people will notice, people will want to engage, will want to help. Successful people want to help people that really care and give a shit. And I think that's where we've gotten so many resources. It's not because necessarily we're all so wildly connected and so smart and have done this a million times. It's more that anybody that talks to us, what we lack in intellect and ability, we will make up for blind, rageful passion almost, where it's just so aggressive that we care so much. And people respond to that, and they want to help you, and they want to connect you with people. And the person when I met Ethan, he was an independent contractor for us, helping us at Ulyngo build a back-end dashboard for a pitch I had to Cal State Northridge, and then paid him $300 to build this dashboard. And he did something that none of my engineers could do in a week. He did in 3 hours. I'm like, okay, then he became like a retainer or a contract with us.
Yeah.
I think $5,600 a month. And he came to our office a couple times, or our co-working desk at the time. And then 3 months later, I said, dude, you're social, you're smart, you're creative. Can you come to a conference with me? Even though he's not a full-time employee, and we'd only been working together for 3 months. And he came to the startup. We were one of the top 10 ed tech startups, higher ed tech startups in Jekowsky. I forget what year it was, maybe 2017, 2018. We'd known each other for 4 months, maybe. And he's at the booth with me, just me and him, talking to schools and showing demos and all this stuff. And he was a contractor. I don't even know if he had a title at that point with us. And so, but you just got to do.
I agree. It's a powerful message, though, because I think a lot of college students are afraid to tell people their idea, which is the craziest thing in the world. But B, they find that I could be a solo founder and I'm going to go run this thing down. And then ego gets in the way when they have somebody who could be a 10x value add to them and could be a 10x better person at X, Y, or Z thing. And then by not giving them that co-founder title, they're never able to bring them on.
And people, I think, grow through this, right? And I definitely had it at a point, especially when I was younger, this kind of ego of feeling like, I started this, shouldn't I be the one, and there are times that I think there is a struggle of thinking of, you're pouring your life and soul into this, you're doing, what position do you put yourself in where it's not about you, but you're also looking out for yourself? And that's a very natural, I think, a natural crisis to have when you're a salesman and you're out there and you're all that. But you do learn that, one, it's not fun to be successful alone, and you are so much more successful when you have other great people. And even if you lose that, 5 or whatever points on your equity, or it's not a photo of you, it's a photo with you and other people. It's so much more fun that way. Let alone the chances of success, like triple, quadruple, 10x, infinite, the chances of success. But it sucks. All of it sucks. And it's so hard and it's so not fun in so many ways. But when you can pick up the phone and call somebody who's dealing with the same pain or a different pain and you can resonate with and have partnership, I mean, it's everybody who is successful, I think, grows out of the concept that it has to be me.
Totally.
And they usually grow out of it either because they didn't succeed ever or because the pain was so strong that they needed to find a way to not have it exist like that.
Speaking of putting organizations first, you made a decision to drop out of college. I'm curious, what was that conversation like with your parents?
Yeah, it was an easy conversation from the perspective where I was not doing well in school, and at least I had somewhat of a reason why. We were talking of, I was either failing out of econ or close to, and C's in business law, which I think was the greatest irony. That one, great teachers, but my own fault, my own inability.
You probably know how to read a term sheet now, though.
I do know now. I'm pretty good at it. Always more to learn, but now I do get it. And I think my conversation with my parents was like, look, I can't do both. They don't want me to do both. I'm not succeeding at the thing they're paying a lot of money for in my tuition, supporting me that way. And I had raised money, and it feels weird to tell my investors I'll get back to them after finals, right? That's just not a email that's fun to craft. And I don't want to half-ass two things, or rather whole-ass one to the extent in which I can. And they said to me, look, if you want to leave school, we'll support you, but you're living at home. We're not helping you with rent or anything anywhere else. But you can live at home, do your thing here. And the second that your business doesn't work out, you're going back to school. And I said, very reasonable. I'm going to do everything I can to not have to put on that backpack again. But so then, stayed in Orange County for kind of the remainder of that year. Well, I guess what would have been my junior year. I dropped out after my sophomore year. And I did have intention of going back. I don't think being a college dropout is cool. I always never called it I dropped out. Yeah. I just left because dropping out, it just has this term of, all these successful entrepreneurs drop out, and it's like, I didn't create Apple, so it's like, it's not an apt analogy to say I dropped out and had success. It was more of, I just couldn't do it. And my parents did respect that I'd raised money, had a responsibility to other people. And their support was, you can live at home and you can work on this business if you really believe in it. And my dad was an entrepreneur in the fact that he started a symphony and was very independent at a young age. And we've had a lot of entrepreneurship in our whole family. And so I think they respected it from seeing it outside of just me. And fortunately, things ended up working out, but it wouldn't have if they didn't support, and it wouldn't have if I couldn't have conversations with my university and they wouldn't look at me as, screw this guy, but have invited me back to speak at homecoming and to be engaged in the entrepreneurship program, despite the fact that, I left them half tuitionless for half of my.
They're still hoping to donate, so it's okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's a smart play.
So, all right, you ran that business for a few years, and I want to get onto Sense in a second, but you ended up exiting that company. Like, what was the story towards the end of that business and realizing you needed to get out?
Yeah, I mean, look, we were trying to raise I guess what we would have thought at the time was a Series A, probably an actual institutional seed round. We were trying to raise money from institutional investors, and I didn't know what the hell I'm doing, and I'm looking at general investors who, because we were a marketplace, I didn't even know the word fintech, probably. I don't think I ever used that term. We called ourselves a white label marketplace. And we can say verticalized, even though we were verticalized. And people saw higher ed and ed tech as maybe a smaller market, higher ed in particular.
Yeah.
There wasn't the love for niche market verticalized
people
SaaS.
Still don't like higher ed, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. And for good reason. Getting those contracts was, I'd have to give naming rights to my kids to a certain extent on getting those contracts and all the process. But, so we ended up finding like two firms that I think were starting to engage with us in serious conversations to lead an actual institutional seed round. And the deeper we got, the more I was like, well, listen, from the dilution, from this, like, how big of an outcome are you going to have versus why don't we just buy you for one of our portfolio companies? Because it's a great add-on to one of our businesses. And then it was like, okay, of course, I don't have an investment bank. I don't have anything. My investors helping me. And so we started having those conversations and got to a couple companies pretty late stage, as well as their backers, to look at maybe just getting acquired and rolling our technology into their existing platforms. Because the thing that we really struggled with was getting distribution. The sales cycle was really long. I was doing all the sales. We had a really small team, built a great product very quickly, great design, all of that, very student-centric. But distribution was hard for us. And I was 20, 21, building it. And so that changed the conversation from trying to raise money to let's explore companies to join and have this kind of layered on service. So we, was having advanced conversations with one company, and to the point where I thought this deal is going to happen. So I alerted one of their competitors that, hey, just so you know,
Smart.
I know we were working on some partnerships, though they might not be able to actually come to fruition because it looks like we're going to get bought, and I don't think I can continue this right now, so put it on hold. And it was not with the intention to create a bidding process or anything. I was trying to do I thought I was doing the right thing.
You learned from a banker somewhere.
Fair enough. And then that company said, wait a second, if you're looking at selling, maybe we're interested. And so I said, okay, happy, spoke with the CEO, spoke with the CTO, did a bunch of presentations, and we were talking with about three companies at the time. Had a great experience with one, went all in. There's always a hairy, crazy stories along the way, but at the end of the day, it was a great partnership. We felt like a great fit, a great home. Rolled in stock to the business, and created a good outcome for our investors, good outcome for me, for Ethan, for our team, and also what we really wanted and what I thought was going to be important was working somewhere that wasn't just for myself at a small company and understanding what it's like to be in a big org. What does success look like? What do board of director meetings actually look like when you've got good institutional investors? What does a office with 80 people in it look like instead of my little WeWork?
Or you never operated really before.
No, and being able to be an executive at one of those companies and a leader in a new product for them, because we had to rebuild a lot of it to fit within their infrastructure. It was a great learning experience of what I thought greatness looked like and what I thought I would do this completely differently in some ways. Now, we sold our business as an on-campus, really student life payment system. And then a year later, you have no on-campus payments and things like that. So there was a nice transition for me to be like, look, until the pandemic goes, there's not much that I can do here with our business and all that. We had a nice, very amicable separation, but that's also after that acquisition where I had some liquidity for the first time in my life and was interested in small business investing, knew I wasn't going to have the same feeling of building the creativity of starting a company and running it and doing all that. So I thought maybe I'd find that somewhere else, i.e. like a bar, a restaurant, something, I don't know, fun, maybe lose money, but like a great exercise and something I'd really enjoy. And I had heard from somebody that their friend or neighbor in Massachusetts was the former president of the New England Coin Laundry Association, and I would hate doing a bar. What do you think about these other things? Why don't you look at buying a laundromat, getting in the laundry business? So I told one of my friends, told Gilly that I got all these Planet Laundry magazines, and I started reading about the Coin Laundry Association and look at the margin profile of these laundromats and look at all the market dynamics. 80% of customers live within a mile of their store, 90% customer retention. There's 50 at the time, maybe 50+% of operators or locations were owned by multi-store operators. So it seems like there's a somewhat of a consolidation play here. And the feedback from my judgments and the rest of our Gilly and I and other folks was like, yeah, but aren't laundromats like not something you want to be a part of? Aren't they kind of like sketchy? Everybody's trying to hide money from the government. Everybody's kind of being a little
tax
funky.
write-off.
Yeah, it's exactly. And then that's we ended up going to one of these, being able to get deep in it. Ended up going to one of these Coin Laundry Association Golden State chapter meetups at this chain Mexican restaurant in the East Bay. And that's when, really fell in love with it. But again, not a straight line because the pandemic, terrible thing. But without that, to have a natural transition out of Moto Labs, very amicable and made sense to be able to then really go deep into the laundry industry that I was passionate about and looking from an investment perspective, outside of my day-to-day, all led to be able to get to this point. So everything has to happen the way it does. But you can't put your own roadblocks out. There's enough roadblocks in the world. If you put your own in there, it just makes it infinitely more challenging.
So for those that don't know, what is Sense?
Yeah, so Sense is really the nucleus, the all-in-one solution to help garment care and repair business owners manage, grow, and understand every element of their business, right? So whether you're a laundromat, a dry cleaner, alterations, industrial cleaning, the world of laundry that we started in laundromats has a bunch of different revenue streams, and it's not inherently that much different than any other Main Street business in terms of the customers that are coming in, maybe some lower income, but in general, the people going to coffee shops and getting their hair cut are going to laundromats. But running a laundromat business, as well as many verticalized businesses, is not complex, but I call it operationally heavy. And horizontal solutions do not serve the needs of an operator. And what we found when I was looking at buying stores is you really have to Frankenstein your business together with 5, 6, 7 different systems to handle your potentially 4 different revenue streams and in-store operations and employee management and asset tracking and all these things that are done on pen and paper. And so never before had there been a institutionally venture-backed vertical software company focused on garment care and repair, in particular these laundromats, because a lot of the venture capital went to, how do I build the Uber for laundry, right? Everything was the Uber for, but that's where the dollars went. We're going to build this brand because there is no brand. And guess, the companies like Rinse and Washio that went under and FlyClean, all these companies that have largely struggled outside of a few, guess where they do the processing? The local laundromats.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is the local laundromats are the backbone of Main Street.
Yeah.
And but it's just not ever been a sexy thing for somebody to build software for. It's not the coffee shop and the restaurant that you're dining at and you're taking your friends to and looks really trendy and cool and is an $8 coffee. And it's not the sexiest thing, but it is one of the more important things on Main Street for the impact it has to its community. And so we just started to realize, at the beginning, I was like, should we just buy a bunch of laundromats? This feels like a game changer. But then the impact that we felt like we could have had instead of building stores, but actually building for them, is how it all started. So, really, since you might not know it, but should be powering Laundry Day in America for consumers, businesses, everything in between, by empowering the SMB, because it's all about the small business owner and operator, and you might not ever know that you've used our products.
It's kind of, I think a lot of people know what Toast is now, but back in the day, you probably didn't know what Toast was, and it was better that way. You just knew that your experience for paying for the food that you bought was significantly better, and you didn't know that it was probably processing payments on the back end, not only for the business owner on that transaction, but also payroll, for instance. It sounds very similar.
And I think we had the luxury of looking at all these playbooks. Olo, Slice, Toast, even Jobber and Squire and Glossinis and Boulevard and Mindbody, and the list goes on.
You grabbed the last market.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of why we've done no press.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's one, because we don't care about the vanity of any kind of press. We haven't done it because I do think this is one of the best kept secrets in all of vertical SaaS. I think that, we wanted to wait until we had real market dominance and the moat was so big.
Yeah.
There's so much we had to do to be able to be in this position. But in general, we felt like this is not just one of the last Main Street businesses, but one of the biggest with no institutional competition. And if we built things the right way, approached the industry the right way, and cared about the independent mom and pop, laundrepreneur, multi-chain or store operator and everything in between, if we were genuine with our intention and we executed in what we call our 1-to-1 say and do ratio, then we could build a really, potentially generational or category defining business in our vertical in a very codependent way where our success is directly tied to the success of our customers.
I want to unpack the market a little bit more. So how many laundromats are there in the US?
General market research says there's 30 to 35,000 laundromats. There's 40 to 45,000 dry cleaners, and some close down and they pop back up and they're bought in larger chains. There's generally a laundromat doesn't
75,000-ish.
Yeah, 75,000-ish.
Yeah.
And then between alterations and leather care and sneaker cleaning and all that makes up another 20 to 25,000. So we view the market as about 100,000 garment care and repair retailers.
Got it.
But that doesn't account for online ordering brands and the industrial cleaning. And then, especially we're here in New York, a lot of these buildings, I don't care if you're in a high rise paying $5,000, $10,000 a month, you might still be going to the basement to do your laundry. And though, we see about 13 plus million shared laundry rooms in the United States. And then so you start to realize, wait a second, garment care is not just that local laundromat. It's how every single person here around the street is taking care of everything that they're wearing. And there's no system for that.
What was the wedge product though that you guys rolled out?
The wedge was really point of sale. That's one, it's typical, high sell-through rate, low implementation cost. But our thesis on point of sale, and I think similar to a lot of vertical SaaS companies, was not just the wedge to sell other stuff, but point of sale in laundry, they already have a way to take a payment. The payment is not the piece because laundry goes through a process. It's a service. A lot of people, laundry used to be a commodity. Laundromat A has, Electrolux or Speed Queen or something machines, and they use the same detergents, and they have the pulling from the same labor pool, and a lot of it's very, very much the same. But it's developed, especially through the growth in what we call wash and fold, which is very common here in New York, where somebody comes in and instead of doing their own laundry, they bring a laundry bag, they pay per pound, and the store wash, dries, and folds it beautifully, presentation for them. You're seeing laundry become much more of not the commodity, but the service itself. And because of that service, right, you have somebody bringing in their own clothes.
Yep.
One bag could be comforters and blankets, which take up the entire volume of a machine. So I'm not charging you per pound there. I'm charging you fixed price.
Yeah.
King size comforter takes up my entire 80-pound machine. So I'm charging you $15 or $20 for that, even though I'm not charging you per pound. Now, you're also bringing in a bag of 20 pounds worth of clothes. Now, 5 items in there need to be hang dried. And I want this bag to be on high heat wash and tumble dry. And I want these hypoallergenic detergents. And by the way, the person doing that processing might not speak English, might not really engage or use technology. And a lot of people bring their laundry to the laundromat, and there's funny Seinfelds about the dry cleaner, and have no idea what's going to end up happening with their clothes. You just trust.
It's like complex operations at the end of the day.
To a certain extent, it is.
Yeah.
But it's very mundane. And so when you have an item that you're bringing that's personal, that's going to end up actually at the end being in a different state than how you brought it in with many different preferences, the value of operationally, I'd say, streamlining that process digitally can be transformative, particularly as, if you talk to Brian Wallace, the president of the CLA, he'll tell you in the last many years that he's spoken to existing laundromat owners and prospective investors in the industry. He hasn't talked to somebody that doesn't want to buy another or own multiple. Because you look at this potential 30+% cash on cash returns, margin profile, you're seeing a high retention of end customers. You're seeing the ability to actually expand your market when you get into pickup and delivery laundry and all of these things. And you're like, God, why doesn't anybody own 100 of these?
Yeah.
It really doesn't happen. One of the largest retailers here owns 83, and you'd be a pipsqueak if you owned 83 Dairy Queens or McDonald's or anything like that. It'd be really small. But you can't scale people, you can scale process, and there is no process, it's only people. And so unless you want to blow up your G&A and hire management and then you lose all your margins of why you got in the industry, it's really hard to scale it and run it well. And that's where you have so much money on the sidelines wanting to get into this industry because it's a great asset of an investment. But without tools and technology, I've got customers that barely know how to use a computer, but they understand that process helps scale and they're hungry for that help and that support. But there has never been an institutional, sophisticated technology system learning from the greatest technology companies out there, the Toasts, the MindBodies, the Gloss Geniuses, et cetera, to actually support them and focus dedicated to them.
And so when you ended up launching and you had that product, what did you think the average contract size was going to be?
We backed into based on revenue of a store. We never had to say or think that, man, this store needs to grow X% year over year in their own revenue for us to build a business. It was just like, if they just put their spend, if we could put that onto our payment rails and we could deliver a product that fit their needs. And again, POS, like I was saying earlier, the POS is one piece. There's what order goes into which machine at what time by which employee and managing inventory and in-store task management, and the list goes on.
It's a full-blown operating system.
And that's without pickup and delivery and commercial invoicing and self-serve revenue, hardware on machines.
Yeah.
Again, the list goes on. So we felt like we benchmarked, we could bring together $6,000 to $7,000 of SaaS, high margin SaaS and payments. We never dreamed that we can get to 15,000+ and we could build this. And that's while still offering one of the most affordable products and affordable transaction fee infrastructure. It's just a consolidation of tools game. That was the thesis for us. We don't have 200+ competitors like the restaurant industry largely does, right? We don't have those kind of dynamics. So the linear trajectory of our product was very straightforward to us because we knew all we needed to do was build a reliable product that could take what an operator does on these disparate systems and put it onto our platform, power the payments, and deliver strong value with our SaaS of $299 a month for all of our services without all the cool stuff that we can do beyond that, and a 4% transaction fee. If we do it the right way, we treat our operators with respect, we have integrity, we're honest, we're transparent, we're communicative, and we actually give a shit, hard to lose, and there can be a great business there. Now, it's developed and grown much more crazy than we could have thought, but that was the thesis. We knew that if there's an average spend of this and we were able to capture that, how much of that be in payments ARPU, and what is the SaaS we think we can charge based on what these kind of family-owned legacy existing systems, the 3 or 4 of them that were out there.
So I'm doing the math in my head and I'm like, wait a second, 70,000 times even like 10 to 15,000. We're in like, what are we talking about? Not a massive TAM. And I think Ken Bennett from Bessemer and I were chatting after he ended up investing in you guys and I think leading your seed round. And I think he started his partnership meeting by saying, I'm going to present a company with the smallest TAM that we've ever seen in this room. I feel like not only A, did you convince Kent and the Bessemer team to invest, but B, you've made certain decisions along the way that have made the TAM expand. Like, what are some of those decisions that you made, and how has it actually impacted your ability to fundraise or how you've gone about fundraising in the future rounds?
I mean, I think TAM for verticalized businesses can be your greatest moat, right? A smaller TAM enables you to own more of a market, deliver, if you have that greater market penetration, you have higher attachment rates to your products. Because you have less competition in a smaller market, you should have out of market retention and net dollar retention of your customer base, and the ability for you then to add on more layered services and think creatively outside of the standard, first swing you can take from a product standpoint. It becomes more unique. And I think across any industry, whether it's a small TAM or a large TAM, if you can own all of it. There's no TAM. There's very few TAMs small enough to not make that an incredible business, especially if it can have the unit economics and margin profile that could double or triple some of the best-in-class public companies. And, the first thing I say on TAM is, the greatest risk to our business, first I said on the risk side, right? One is we joke the greatest risk to the laundry industry is nudist colonies, because as long as you're wearing clothes, they need to get cleaned. We have a business. We're not worried about the macroeconomic environment. We aren't worried about geopolitical landscape. We don't worry about socioeconomic trends. People need to get their clothes cleaned. Even ironically, they say, people are working from home, so they're sending out their dry cleaning less, right? In fact, millennials, younger generations are spending more portion of their income on high-end clothing that can't go through the streetwear, the Pradas, the sneakers that they're spending thousands of dollars that need to be professionally cleaned. So while maybe the average suit and tie is going down on the dry cleaner, there are more high-end luxury items that can't go in your own washer or dryer, and you don't want the liability of cleaning yourself. And so there becomes different forms. But anyway, so one is as an asset class from a risk perspective, it's much different than you'd look at another SMB. A laundromat has such an incredibly high success rate. The leases can outlive many of the operators. The dynamics of a laundry business are incredible. And if a laundry business closes, it doesn't actually close. So much CapEx goes into that store. It just changes hands. Somebody else will buy it, either retool it, relaunch it, rebrand it, and try it again. And so from a risk profile and I think the unique dynamics that smaller TAMs can provide, it's a huge benefit to us. Then when you actually think about garment care and repair, I would actually agree with you. Building a POS business exclusively, if that's what I went to market and I said, we're going to build the greatest POS in garment care and repair, I wouldn't go to investors. I'd want to build that business myself and cash flow it out and build exactly what every other company in this industry, all 3 of them, have done, which is raise nearly zero venture capital and have a family-owned business, two brothers or just a solo person who's a laundromat owner that realizes a need and says they can build software, work with some consulting companies to build the software, and then sell it. And then they can just have really low costs and make all that money. We never had the intention of being a POS company, right? It's the wedge product for us. We feel like we can be not a market leader in POS, but a market owner in terms of being a partner and trusted vendor for every element of what makes a laundry business successful, right? There's the marketing tools, the pickup and delivery and online ordering, the hardware for point of sale, working within laundry rooms, employee management, advertising networks, group purchasing, like all of the things that these operators do. We joke internally, like in Silicon Valley, when Ehrlich goes and like drops acid in the desert to think of the new internet or whatever the scene was. Like, we don't have to do that, right? It's a very linear trajectory. Talk to a business owner, understand what they do, see all the different systems they have to use to make that happen. And you realize, holy crap, this is not just a POS at, 5, 6, 7,000 in ARPU. This is the layer in the ecosystem of managing an entire business of super high retention. I mean, our hardware business, we've never lost a customer, ever.
Wow.
We acquired a company recently, Laundroworks, that close to 1,800 locations. Not a single customer has ever left.
It's amazing.
I mean, I've never seen a business with 100% retention over 13 years. 3,500 shared laundry rooms, never removed. No sales team. There becomes some really interesting dynamics where any investor, and Ken actually told me this, I hope he's fine with me saying it, but he always said, like, if somebody is asking you, question and question and question about TAM, meeting after meeting, it's just about TAM, they don't get it. Don't waste your time. Some people get it, some people don't. Some people see the opportunity, some people don't. And, our message is garment care and repair is a huge market. Is it bigger than all of restaurants? Maybe not. But I would argue it's just as big when you start to unpack it at 60 plus billion in GMV, not accounting for all the other spend that goes on.
Wow.
There's a hell of a lot more there when you start to peel back at the onion and understand what we're trying to accomplish, which is really powering laundry day across the board and everything in between of a laundry business. So it is a smaller TAM, and that is something that we love and we feel like is our moat. But also, you execute correctly and you do right by the business owners, and they want to work and they want you to be their partner and do more for them and with them, so they can just buy a business, generate great margins, and buy the next one without all the worry operationally. It becomes a much larger opportunity from there.
And of the 60 billion in GMV, what percentage of that of revenue is the average laundromat spending on materials and other things like consumables?
That's an area that we're trying to get more data around because, financing and lending, right? There's specialty lenders. You can't go to a bank if you're a laundromat because you're reporting cash. How does the IRS or a bank, or even if you're trying to buy a store, what are you looking at? Well, you're looking at bank deposits and tax returns, but a lot of it's cash and coin. What's the easiest way to do it? Utility bill. Right? That's how you can back into the P&L pretty easy. You look at water usage and gas usage, and I know my washer turns and my dryer turns, the average prices, and you can back into them to the gross revenue at least pretty easily. So there's a lot of things outside, right? You're talking about how much they're spending on machine and equipment through their laundry equipment distributors, on their parts, but also their laundry bags and their detergents and all the different SKUs. We're trying to piece that together more as a business, but we do know as we power their inventory, there's a lot of opportunity to not just help facilitate that for operators, but bring down their cost along the way. Now, it's always a balance because we have a responsibility to focus on the core thing that they actually need, not just the flashy, cool stuff we like to tell investors that we want to do that's very trendy in vertical SaaS, right? So we need to toe the line, and I think all verticalized businesses need to toe the line between innovation and focusing on core. Because who the hell cares if you build some great revenue-based financing product and GPO tool if you can't do multi-tender payments over a point of sale, right? If you don't have flexibility within a driver app, if you don't help them on online ordering, if you don't build good end-user engagement tools within marketing. So it's a balance between the two, right? I try to, head in the clouds, feet on the ground as much as we can, but it always is not a nice splash of cold water, also sending as much of our time as a company in the field with our customers to just remember that sitting in the Soho office thinking about cool, innovative products for the industry versus then visiting the store and see what they actually need, what that English as a second language attendant really needs to be supported and successful. that's what we try to balance.
Totally. It's interesting. I was here with Alir from Slice the other day, and I know Dane from Odeco, and we were all chatting about GPOs. And one of the things that's interesting to me, though, about a GPO or group purchasing organization is the fact that the time to value can be so fast for a small business owner. So I agree, it's not great to pontificate in an ivory tower. The reality is, if you go to Main Street and someone owns a business, and let's say they are spending 30% of top line on materials, and they do $1 million, it's $300,000 to spend. If you can save them 10%, that's $30,000 going to their bottom line, which means they can pay for maybe half of a year of college that you didn't finish. But and then they can also. But for you, if you can take 5%, or increase your ACVs, it might actually have a massive impact. Which, with your retention, I imagine you are able to kind of overspend now on customer acquisition because it's so much clearer to you what the LTV will be for the customers.
From a CAC perspective, if somebody buys our hardware on machines, we're payback period is day one.
Wow.
Right. It's a company that rarely exists in that way, because hardware, I think, is such an incredible tool for verticalized SaaS businesses if you can actually sell it and it not be, the thing you have to give away for free to be able to get them in the door. And a lot of our customers also, what I love is they love to be creative and engaging with us. They want us to be successful, because if we're successful, we get to do more for them. And so you're exactly right. We have to toe the line between innovation and focusing on core. And what's funny is a lot of the things we think are innovative end up being really core. And so you need to have that constant push and pull to understand. Like one example would be, we launched, the online ordering, which in restaurants is normal, right? It's merchant to customer always. You're not picking up the ingredients from the customer, cooking it in the restaurant, and delivering it back to them. In laundry, however, you are doing that. You're picking up the clothes from a customer, then you're delivering it to a store. And remember, you don't know what you're picking up when they place that order. You don't know if it's dry cleaning, if it's comforters and bags. You don't know the weight. They'll try to tell you how many bags. You don't really know until it gets to your store. And then you got to weigh it, actually build a process, intake it, then do the processing, then deliver it back to them. Okay, so that means that you have to hire your own driver, buy your own van, wrap it, and all those things. You have all this CapEx and costs, but in our data, average over-the-counter sale, including products and everything, is around about $28-$30. Average online order is $75. So you can nearly triple your average ticket as an operator.
Wow.
But then might have to spend six figures to do it with labor, insurance, gas, vehicle, et cetera. And so in that towing the line between building a good driver app, which we actually didn't build a great driver app in the beginning for logistics and fleet management, and building an online ordering system, we wanted to focus on innovation. So we built the first ever integration with Uber and DoorDash and Roadie and a bunch of other logistics companies to bring them into our product. So you can now order from Crisp Laundry here in Kips Bay, who doesn't have a driver. And it just shows Uber and DoorDash and their delivery fee. It's in their experience. And for the first time, an operator can get into pickup and delivery, expand their own serviceable addressable market by not just the 80% of customers within 1 mile of their location, but go beyond that to pickup and delivery with no CapEx. Incredibly accretive. We found that kind of innovation ended up being so core to the need of our operator. Now, if we built a better driver app, we would have been able to service the people that have 6-7-figure delivery businesses first, which we're finally now really able to do. So we decided to not focus on core, build something innovative to help 90% of the industry get into pickup and delivery, which is such a huge value add service, while not actually focusing on the real cash cows of the business that already have a great, 6 vans and doing routes and zone-based delivery and really advanced logistics. And so GPO is another great example. And we think about so many different products that we know can be so creative. And that's what Gilly and our product team have such an immense responsibility for, and why it's so important to be present with our customers and be invested deep in the industry. It's why we are not trying to go into car washes and going to all these, because you got to be committed to know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's been powerful for us.
Totally agree. I only have a couple more minutes with you. So real quick, few questions. One is, do you have a field sales team now?
We have and we don't have. We don't believe in our industry, in our business, we need to have 2,000 employees. It's not, we want to have $1 million of revenue, one head count. That's the kind of way we're building our business. And field sales, we have 90% field sales close rate. It's immensely valuable.
Yeah.
We also don't want to have 200 salespeople pounding the pavement. So we focus on, we do have in the major regions where 50% of stores are located in 5 states, California, Texas, Illinois, Florida, and New York. So we have territory reps in those areas that can go field, but are also, we have the unique ability in our industry, just because of our industry, to leverage laundry equipment distributors who are incredible lead sources.
Interesting.
And so you can't buy hardware. You can't buy a machine from a manufacturer. You buy it from a distributor. And so they become kind of a regional lead source for us and partner to be able to get better distribution. So I'd love to have a bunch of field sales reps. It's crazy powerful. It's a great experience to go and visit all these stores. And we do a lot of in-person engagement when we can, and just where we situate our sales team. But we also try to stay as efficient as we can from a sales org.
Are those people acquiring the customers for you, or are they just giving you a lead list to go after?
Oh, they're selling it and making the margin.
Oh, wow.
Or they're making a referral.
So the distributor partner that you have, they're not they are acquiring your customers for you, it sounds like. Is this like the unspoken about secret, do you think, when it comes to SMB go-to-market, is finding a one-to-many channel?
I mean, it's great if you can get it, but it's super important to us to have a direct relationship with the customer, right? So we want that distribution, but we don't want a middle layer where we can't engage with, learn from, support, and partner with that end consumer. So I think it's a unique dynamic that this industry has. HVAC is kind of similar, and with ServiceTitan, but it's unique in laundry because the distributor ends up kind of being the advisor to that new operator and becoming a close friend. And then there's a loyalty where I was just with a customer of ours in Cincinnati who said, I don't care what it is. I'm not going to anybody else except for my distributor. Like, they're best friends. That's just what they do. They have a really deep relationship. And so when you want to buy a laundry machine, commercial vended laundry equipment, you can't buy it from a manufacturer. You have to buy it from a distributor. And then when I want to open a laundromat, I'm going to go to that distributor and ask them about my site, about my location. Some of them actually build spec stores, install the equipment, and then sell the store. So they're much more than just a distributor to that customer. So they have a lot of power in guiding them through that purchasing decision.
Interesting.
So if you can give that distributor a great product, an affordable price point for the operator, and a good margin on their commission, if you will, on the sale, then it becomes a no-brainer for them. They're looked at more highly by by their customer because they sold them something great that works at a good price point, and then everybody wins. But again, we also don't want to build a business where we're reliant on third-party distribution. So we have a BDR team, our marketing and top of funnel, our account executives, demos, really sophisticated infrastructure there to be very hands-on at every single stage. We'll sometimes source deals for distributors, pass them off. They do the installation, so we don't have to worry about, for hardware in particular. They do all the installation and servicing. They get their cut, but we source the deal. We did a lot of the heavy lifting, but we want to be friendly to everybody. We want to be seen as a good player. So it is super accretive for us, and we want to actually invest more in distribution, but also making sure that we can maintain an extremely high level of quality and service for the end customer.
That makes sense. So I've noticed one thing when talking to you, which is that you mentioned Chase from Built. You and I were talking about Dane from Odeco earlier. It sounds like you spend a lot of time with other founders in the vertical SaaS world. How much time do you spend with them?
Well, it's funny because I tend to not go to startup events because I'm like, I am in startups and thinking about this stuff 24/7. I don't want to just be surrounded by it all the time in my personal life. But at the same time, I feel like I've been able to see around so many corners and avoid so much pain by working with Steve Fredette and Jonathan Vasilla at Toast, Chase from Built, Kenny Herman, and the Slice and Alir and Jason Ordway and Wiley and all these guys have been, and Sam Pillar at Jobber has been amazing, and Dane spoke at our offsite, and so did Sam and Steve. Like, these are folks that why reinvent the wheel in terms of how to win? Like they Matt Tucker at Olo and Talk and Squarespace, all these guys have been so incredibly powerful. And I think that's also one of the greatest things about our investors is our investors don't tell us that they have the answers. They tell us they have the portcos that have the answers. And that's the value in the fund because, they understand the pain. The great operators understand the pain. They'll take you through every single one of their losses and they help us win. I was talking to Steve at Toast about our tablets. We had these Android tablets for our point of sale, and there was one charging port, and we couldn't do power over Ethernet to a printer, and then everything was Bluetooth. And if there's a microwave, we can't get Bluetooth from the printer, and then our Stripe readers wouldn't connect, couldn't be hardwired to the list goes on. And then they say, well, you should use this company. That's who we ended up using for when we were, he remembered the days of the toasts with Samsung before they went this. So that we wouldn't have gotten without folks like that. And so I love to jam and spar and spend time with folks that can just make us better. And I'm basically really just regurgitating all of the learnings I've had from them. I don't know how much of this is anything organic to me. Even their guiding principles and act like an owner and one-to-one say and do ratios, things I learned from Chase and the Sense Dispatch, right?
Yeah.
Olo, and thinking about a lot of the best in class things of what Slice has done, of Slice of the Union, and what we want to do of come into the fold. And we love to play with different ideas that we know work. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I do a lot of talks in the industry about having laundromat owners think and engage with more other small business owners in other industries. The laundry industry treats itself like it's the most unique thing on the planet, and it is very unique. But the consumer is the same as every other vertical SaaS company generally. And I try to bring trends of Cloud Kitchen and Gloss Genius and Rinsed and car washes, try to tell them, look at memberships, look at online only brands. If you have a store that doesn't have a great signage and create a digital only brand that sends volume to your ghost kitchen laundromat.
Yeah.
Think about different labor types. Think a little bit differently, but not that you have to reinvent the wheel. Let's just look at what other companies are doing and the companies powering those businesses are doing. So we try to do it ourselves and look internally at Sense, but also expose those trends to our customers as well.
The irony of you being such a fan of history and then studying other businesses. I mean, it is the way to go. I find a lot of founders can avoid many, many mistakes just by having those conversations. And it seems like, you've learned a lot. One other question before I get to the one I ask everybody would be, you work with your brother-in-law. What's that like?
It's probably the best case scenario because I love my family, but I don't know if I could work with my family. We're mutually aligned in our own success as a family, but not directly tied together. And, I make a joke to my sister who you know as well. And I'm like, look, most people say when they got married, they found their better half and they hit it out of the park. And I'm like, Steph, when you got married, I found my better half. It's like that kind of, we had so many great jokes, but Gilly and I, in a mix of, yes, we're family, but we have had such a friendship beyond startups. Before we were doing this, he sold his company, Ivy, great outcome, great business. A year before I sold mine, we were always jamming on different concepts and ideas. And so when an opportunity came to work together, I found that he and I had the two things that make a great relationship and a great partnership that I learned from a mentor of mine. He said, somebody that you can trust implicitly. He doesn't want my job and I don't want his job. And he has skills I could never do and he has skills I could never do, but he can do a little bit of what I do to take pressure off me and I could do a little bit of what he does to take pressure off him. It's this symbiotically beautiful relationship. But then we argue really well. The only time people know who I'm on the phone with in a phone booth is when I'm on with Gilly, because even in a soundproof phone booth, they can hear it. We are screaming at each other and yelling, and we never end a phone call without saying, I love you, goodbye. That good argument, good tension. We think very differently, but very similarly. We have a very similar EQ and a similar, I could argue he's even more passionate than me and so thinking about so many things and is just so in love with his industry and our customer base and our product that it makes our sparring so much more fun. And I love arguing with him. I sometimes do it just for the sport,
That's awesome.
and vice versa. So when you have that trust and that great great tension, but then you also have like a mutual alignment where you care about each other beyond a friendship because of the connection we have. It's really special.
It's nice. Especially if you don't have the baggage of like your childhood growing up with each other, it makes it a hell of a lot easier.
100%. I love my sister. I love my brother. I don't think it'd be the same, but we all get to share in the same enjoyment of working all together and doing it that way. But I do tell Steph, hey, it doesn't work out, dibs on Gilly, but no, it's
last question is, if you were mayor of New York, what's one thing that you would change?
Oh, wow. Ooh, that is a really good question. If I were mayor of New York, well, I'll say I'm a transplant. I've been here 3 years, so I don't know all the inner workings. And
We like fresh blood, though.
if you like fresh blood, that's a really good question. I mean, it's hard for me not to want to bring it to laundry. That's every fiber of my being wants to find ways to make everything around laundry. But
Government subsidized laundry for all.
government subsidized? No, I want the payments. Definitely don't subsidize, but push everything to the SMBs, give tax breaks to the SMBs, all of that stuff. Honestly, if I were mayor of New York, I don't know if I would do necessarily something different on this, but as many city bike racks as humanly possible. Without city bikes and the ability for me to bike around everywhere, I don't know how I'd get anywhere. It is the best thing. Rain or shine, I have ice in my hair when I bike during the winter. It is made transportation and navigating New York the best thing. I don't know if that's necessarily a change. I mean, there's always the smell and the heat and the trash and the this that I would sometimes change, and maybe as many outdoor concerts as possible.
I would also shut down Broadway and make it a bike-only street. That would make it better for you, too.
I would take that. I'd also say maybe hours on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
Early hours, something like that. Let me just rip down. I mean, on the corner of Fifth Avenue, so that's maybe a little bit more selfish, but or double bike lanes. Let us just continue to cruise, because I sometimes bike like, I'm invincible, no helmet, no anything, and maybe that's a little risky.
I love it.
But
I love it. Alex Jekowsky from Sense, thanks for joining me, man.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.